This is a continuation of working the big toe belly band, the big toe sacrum band. And we have a new model on the table for us. And we're going to see a full flow. Yesterday, the other lesson, we were a little bit choppy in how we were demonstrating it. We had to take some time, make sure everybody could see the pathway, the direction the band is going, what it feels like in different areas of the body. And now we're just going to show what a flow would look like, because otherwise it can really slow down the massage if you're doing it in piecemeal. It's better to have a nice rhythm and flow to it. So again, we're always going to be connecting with our client. Can you breathe into my hand here, Tip? Breath comes in and breath goes out. Now Tip complained a little bit of some back problems, and it is on, you can see the trouble is exactly in the area where that big toe sacrum band is. So she's a really good candidate for today's lesson, because exactly where the problem is, that's where the pathway that we're going to work. Full deep breath. So as always, we're connecting with the breath. Now it's important when you're pressing on the back, be mindful where some of the bone components are. You've got the spinal column, which is right in the middle. You can feel little protrusions of the vertebrae. So you want to make sure that you're not pressing, directly bone on bone. You want to direct your pressure actually into the muscle tissue and into the band, and you want to kind of bypass pressing on the bones. And then you'll also know you're going to feel the shoulder blade here, the scapula. So there's a nice spot we're going to show with our forearms that gets right between those two areas. So in between the spinal column and in between the scapula, we're going to be using our forearm, and we're going to get a nice and a very thorough and effective full excavation of that band. Okay, coming along to the other side. Now yesterday we talked about boundaries, especially when we were coming up in the inner pathway of the leg. We had a 6-finger rule that as your hands are coming up on the inside of the leg, when you get to about 6-finger width from the buttocks, you would angle your fingers outward so you would not have any appropriate contact with their crotch. So make sure you do that. There's also something else that we do. There's kind of a no-touch zone right in here. Is like a rectangular area about this big, from 6 fingers here to just basically at the coccyx, which is the bottom of the sacrum. So this rectangular area is a no-touch zone. We never go anywhere near that. So we can work through the towel into the buttocks, but how we position our hand is very important, because you have to make sure that your fingertips are away from the no-touch zone. So it's very easy to kind of not be conscious of it, and then as you're working, your fingers are kind of right here. And it's just a little bit of a dangerous zone when you're working on somebody. You don't want to have your fingers pointing towards the center. You want to make sure you have your fingers pointing towards the outside. So be conscious of where your fingers are, that they're not anywhere near the no-touch zone, okay? So you got to have a lot of body awareness and spatial awareness. Now, if you have no choice but to put your hand this way, well, don't tuck your fingers in and downward. Lift your fingers up so they're kind of going out of the area, okay, and not pointing to the no-touch zone, okay? So you see here, as I'm rocking her body, my fingers can be close to the thigh on the inside, but as I get close to the no-touch zone, then I'm going to change. My hand position rotates and my fingers move into a different direction, okay? So very important. You're going to break down the trust wall if you are sloppy with your contact. Okay, so again, you see that? It's touching the body here because this is a safe zone, but then we get the no touch zone. I move my fingers out of the way. And you have to think about that as you're moving down the body. Fingers here, fingers to the outside. Okay, hope everyone is very clear on that. Okay, so that's a pretty good warm-up. I'm going to show a very powerful move for opening up the hips, the sacrum, the lower back, the lumbar vertebrae. And there's a little bit of an umbrella area here. We call this a rainbow or the mushroom cap or a semicircle. In the soft tissue in this area right here, it's kind of following, the sacrum is a kind of a diamond shape bony plate right here. And then if we follow the path of the sacrum underneath the iliac crest, that's the pelvis, and then you've got another landmark here. You've got the femur head, the top of the femur bone. So anywhere in here is a lot of soft tissue, and people can get a lot of tension there. If we put our hand here where the hip meets the back, we can take this arm, point to the opposing armpit, and this is going to give us the right positioning. It's almost like at a 45-degree angle. So you're going to connect. You obviously want to avoid bone-on-bone contact. So you can feel the bone of the sacrum here, you can feel the bone of the pelvis here, and you can feel the bone of the femur there. So somewhere back from that. So if you're pressing with your fingertips and you feel bone, come back from that until you're more into soft tissue. So right here is where you want to line up. So you can find it with your finger or thumb. Switch to your forearm, and again, you're going to be pointing to the opposing armpit. This is how you would line up your forearm. Full deep breath, and exhale. Breathing with your client. Now, as you feel the tension kind of dissolve around your elbow, you can reposition slightly to get back on top of it. Going down slowly with the exhale. And what you're doing, it's almost like you're scooping it out. You're using your elbow a little bit like, almost like a backhoe, if you can imagine that. It's a digger. So your elbow is kind of going to make contact, go down into the tension, and then just strip it a little bit away from the center. You want to kind of bring that tension out and away. In the previous lessons, we talked about compression is kind of some of our problems, and expansion is the solution. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to take some of that tension that's been forcibly combined. You know, if we're sitting too much in an office or sitting in a car in traffic, we tend to get compressed. Everything gets a little bit, I wouldn't say fused, but quite condensed in that area. So now we want to expand it out. Full deep breath. Wonderful. Now, you can actually see a difference in how the hip is lying, okay? This side, if you can get the right angle, you can see has collapsed a little bit. It's surrendered from the tension. So there's a little bit of a difference in way the right buttock is a little bit more flat and dropped, and the left buttock is a little bit more elevated because it's still holding that tension. So now we can even things out. We can go to this side. Same idea, except you're pointing to the opposing armpit. And very important to work with the breathing. As the client's inhaling, you're easing off the pressure. And as the client's exhaling, you're sinking into the intention. Now you don't want to go past a 10. You don't even want to really go to a 10. You want to be at a 7 to 9. So tip, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is the most pressure you can take. What number do you feel this is? A 3? You say 3? Yeah. Oh, so I think I'm at a 7, but my client says she's at a 3. So what that means is she can take a lot more pressure than I'm applying. So it's good to have that dialogue and the communication with your client. Full deep breath. So that means I can go a lot deeper this time. What's the number now? 10, okay. So we went from a 3 to a 10. Maybe I did too much. We have to do a little bit more in between. Deep breath. All right, and then give it some reward. And you see how I'm matching the connection of my hand with her body to the roll and the rock of her movement. So it's very fluid. Her hips, as I'm pressing into her hips, her body's going to sway a little bit to the right. As I release and let go, she's going to find her balance, her center point. So she's going to roll back a little bit here. So you see, her body rolled back, just slightly. So the key for me is to match the next stroke. It's like a pendulum. You're trying to catch the body at the ends of those points, you know? Her body's going to swing back this way, so then I'm going to push again. Swing, push, swing, push, swing, push. Okay? So that should be a good warm-up. You can actually see there's a lot more fluidity to the hips now. Just doing those 2 moves has really opened up the hips. If you move the body from, let's say, the lower spine, and you kind of rock it, if the whole body moves as one piece, like it feels like a log, then that means there's a lot of tension. But as you remove that tension, then the components start to have a little bit more separation in these hinge points. So it no longer is rocking like a log, it's more moving like a chain, where each individual link has a little bit more, just a tiny bit more motion. So you can see these joints have opened up a little bit. So now her body have a little bit more sway into it. It has just a little bit more independent movement from the lower back. Okay. Now we're just going to work on the head. Connecting with the breathing again. Full deep breath. And one of the first things I'm doing here, just getting a little bit of elongation. So just see if I can stretch the head a little bit from the neck. Just pull slightly towards me. At the hairline, this is where the base of the skull is. And you can actually take your fingers and you can feel the base of the skull. And you can curve your fingertips inwards and just get a nice little, a gentle pull. You're not playing hangman. You're just doing a little bit of a gentle pull, a little gentle separation. Okay. Okay, we're going to go into another video. We'll have more in-depth on the head in the next lesson. So I think we can just, this is just kind of a summary of how we're going to do the flow, but I wanted to show some demonstrations of a few things before I got to that. Just more piecemeal work, and then we're going to get into a full flow in just a moment.